I'm really looking forward to making healing trauma easier for people, because sometimes when we're only doing psychotherapy, we keep on going for sessions. So I want to talk about my top favorite homeopathic remedies that really peel away trauma really quickly. And of course, we'll go into family constellations and ancestral trauma. And let's just dive right into it.
Yeah. So let's start with homeopathy. So what is homeopathy for people who don't know? Most people probably know by now if they've listened to you before, but what is it and why is it so effective for childhood trauma?
So homeopathy is an energetic form of medicine. It's made by diluting substances multiple times. Yeah, multiple times. So really the final homeopathic remedy is almost like the energetic picture of the original substance. Now, why is that important? Because we are frequency, we're vibrational beings, and our emotions are frequency at a vibrational level. And trauma as well happens at a frequency level, right? It's an experience, and then we vibrate differently after the experience. We either withdraw, we collapse, we go into low self-esteem, these negative thinking, suicidal thoughts, whatever it may be. These different emotions have different vibrations. And so in therapy, we take time to look at each and every trauma. We release it through our body movements, which is fantastic, of course, right? Now, along comes this medicine, this beautiful medicine called homeopathy, which kind of takes care of the entire energetic picture of somebody suffering from a trauma, right? So, for example, if you have had sexual abuse, for example, in the past, and you have a lot of maybe resentment, anger, and a lot of withdrawal, right? And inability to trust anyone. That's a very unique picture compared to somebody else who's being abused and might be more like cowardly, maybe hypersexual or afraid of people, a different kind of response, right? And so each of those responses is a different frequency, a different picture. And homeopathy actually goes into the details of those pictures and prescribes a remedy. We prescribe a remedy that matches the picture that the person is in. All right. So you can see it's encompassing the whole person, right? And we also look at the type of trauma a person has gone through to select the remedy. So we even get more and more specific, right? If somebody has had physical abuse, right, there's specific remedies for that. If somebody's had sexual abuse, there's different remedies for that. Sometimes they overlap, right? If somebody's gone through financial crisis or parents divorcing or parents arguing, right, or abandonment issues. Based on those issues, we select, okay, this is the spectrum of remedies that fits the person. Out of the spectrum of remedies for that particular trauma, which of these remedies now match the emotional response of the person, right? I had a client who basically lost a loved one at a very young age, and she would get seizures. And the remedy we chose was opium, right? Homeopathic opium, which is a great remedy that actually is used to treat seizures as well as trauma. So you can see the overlapping of also healing the physical symptoms of a person as well as emotional symptoms. And that brings me to my next point is sometimes people have physical symptoms after a trauma. So we can use the physical symptoms of a person to also narrow down which remedy is most indicated for their trauma. That's the beauty of homeopathy.
Very well said. That was a beautiful description of how it works. And I love how you talked about the different pictures and how obviously we're each very unique individuals. And while some of our traumas might be similar, yes, how we respond to them, how our bodies respond to them might be different. So we all are in each individual picture that could be, have different remedies for different pictures. So what are some of the actual remedies that you suggest?
Okay, it depends, of course, on the person. Yeah, I have an online course that goes through all these specific remedies in more detail. Let's go through a few. If there's a lot of like abandonment issues, yeah, we're talking about childhood trauma now. A lot of abandonment, natrum muriaticum or magnesium muriaticum are great. If there's a shock where you feel stunned and paralyzed and numb and inability to feel, we use homeopathic opium, right? If there's a sense of betrayal or even abandonment as well, but there's a lot of anxiety, a sense of lump in your throat, a lot of tearfulness, and just a sense of restlessness, yeah, it's a nervousness. Then we give Ignatia, yeah. I often use a homeopathic remedy called Aurum Metallicum, which is homeopathic gold, for somebody who has a sense of deep depression, maybe suicidal thoughts, lots of guilt, sense of failure, low self-esteem. All right. Pulsatilla is another remedy I cover where there's a lot of neediness, like a lot of clinginess. So you'll find that you need people to listen to your problems and you need attention, you need this pity, and you feel better after crying and emoting, right? So I look at the picture of a person, but I also, in the course, I also cover the specific kinds of trauma and all the remedies related to those traumas as well. So these are some of the most common remedies we use for trauma.
Awesome. Thank you for going through a few of those. And is there anything else you want to say about homeopathy as it relates to childhood trauma before we move on to family constellations?
Yes, you read my mind. So it makes healing trauma much easier, one, and you can combine it with psychotherapy. So you're doing the psychotherapy to process stuff mentally, and then if you add the remedy, therapy just works so much faster, and you feel better much faster as well, right? Because you're literally peeling away layers of emotional conflict, of guarding that your mind might not be able to even look at or go to. But the homeopathic remedy does the work for you.
Yeah.
And while it's doing the work, you get more clarity on your situation. You're like, oh gosh, I see the situation from a bit further away. So I'm less entangled and enmeshed in the emotional turmoil of the event. And that gives your nervous system a chance to relax, right? You come out of the fight, flight, or freeze response much faster by using homeopathy.
And why, when I was reading your bio, right, you talk about how you like to heal the body and mind together. That just came to me in this moment. Why is that important? Why is that important in childhood trauma?
Oh, okay. I'm getting tingles all over now. I don't so I think we're going somewhere interesting. So one is people who have gone through childhood trauma, their nervous system is either in fight, flight, or freeze, or another compensation, right? And they're living a normal life maybe, or they have intrusive thoughts, some low self-esteem. All these are a physiological response as well, right? Now, if the trauma is unhealed, the nervous system becomes exhausted. And the adrenal glands as well, they're always producing adrenaline or cortisol in response to a threat or a trauma. And when the trauma is unhealed, the adrenal glands are always working, and all your cells and your nervous system are always overworking subconsciously. And so over time, what happens is your adrenal glands and nervous system burn out. And when that happens, you get a cortisol imbalance. And when you get the cortisol imbalance, your brain chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, melatonin, all the feel-good neurotransmitters, they start dropping. And you go into anxiety, depression, insomnia, OCD, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, all those mental health symptoms come sometimes with a combination of adrenal burnout, childhood trauma. And the other thing that's important to heal the mind, anxiety, and depression is, of course, changing the biology, right, from your gut and liver. What does that mean? So we have this stomach and intestines, and your intestines are like a nice tube kept healthy by good bacteria and good food. Over time, with antibiotic use, poor diet, etc., the good bacteria get killed off, the lining gets damaged, your intestinal lining. Toxins leak into your bloodstream, cause inflammation everywhere in your body, okay? And then this inflammation also stresses your adrenal glands, burns them out. It also it causes an imbalance of cortisol as well as your other neurotransmitters. It affects your thyroid hormones. Yeah, when all these thyroid hormones and neurotransmitters go out of balance, you get more mental health symptoms. Okay, and all this inflammation then affects your liver, and your liver is already burdened with toxins from pesticides, from it's the master organ of the body. It controls your hormones, it controls your sleep, it controls many other things. And so the liver becomes toxic from inflammation as well as environmental toxins. And when that happens, it produces less bile. So you get a worsening of gut health, worsening of what we call leaky gut health, a worsening of hormonal balance. So more anxiety and depression, because when progesterone is low or estrogen is off balance or testosterone is low, you'll have more mental health symptoms as well. So that's why people in the course, when they go through it, they learn how to heal their gut, their liver, and their adrenal system with herbs, supplements, and homeopathy, as well as heal the trauma using the emotional healing exercises in the course and the homeopathic remedies.
So it would appear there is a mind-body connection.
Always, always, for sure.
Thank you. That I love that. That's one thing. One of my favorite things about your work is how much you connect the two, and always look at the whole person and everything that's going on. So okay, let's talk about family constellations. What is it? How does it help people with childhood trauma?
So childhood trauma is an experience of, it can be anything: abandonment, entanglement with your mom, your dad, and I'll talk about entanglements just now, abuse, whatever it may be. There's a certain response we go through. Okay, that's the typical trauma model or explanation. Family constellations takes it to another level now. Family constellations looks at entanglements or imbalances in the family system. It's a type of therapy developed by a person called Bert Hellinger. And he also studied with the Zulu people in South Africa. And he noticed from his studies that there's certain orders of love or orders of balance. Yeah. And when these orders are crossed over or messed up, then we go into anxiety, depression, chronic disease. Yeah. And these imbalances are actually forms of trauma as well during childhood. Let me explain a few. Okay. Let's say mom is being abused by dad, right? As a child, that's very traumatic. Now, what happens is typically we take the side of mom. We protect mom and we kind of reject dad sometimes, or we're angry with dad. In constellation work, that's an entanglement. Yeah, in two ways. One is we are protecting mom as if she's a child and we're the parent, we're the caregiver. So we've come out of balance. We've skipped the order of hierarchy and we're acting like a parent to the parent. And number two, we're rejecting, the other parent who gave us life. Our life comes from both parents, right? And when we reject the father or the mother or anybody else, we're kind of rejecting something that created us. So in a way, we're rejecting our own life force. And people slip into more depression, poor relationships. Maybe I've even seen liver stagnation or liver issues when people are rejecting their parents, especially the father. Well, rejecting the mom comes with other stuff as well. Yeah. Another form of trauma most people don't realize is if your parents have had a miscarriage. In family constellations, we see that you as the client are kind of loyal, one, to the mom's sadness or to the dad's sadness, the parent's sadness of losing the child, possibly. So you're carrying the weight, the pain of the parents, and you don't know why you have this heaviness in your sadness and unexplained, chronic depression. And also what happens is we are often loyal to the missing child, especially when the child is not talked about. So a lot of children will feel guilty for having survived or having lived and the other one didn't. So we say certain healing sentences in family constellations to resolve these entanglements and give our soul the freedom to live its own life. Yeah. Example sentences we can say: dear mom, this pain, this sadness is yours. Some of it is mine and some of it is yours. I leave with you what belongs to you so that I can grieve my sibling more clearly for myself. So it gives you more autonomy and healthier boundaries with your family members, right? And the entanglements. You can say, dear sibling, you came first before me. I am second. Dear mom and dad, please recognize that I'm the second, this is the first. And so please bless me if I take my position as second, because a lot of people who have a missing child before them have a lot of anxiety as well, because they're trying to live two lives, or they're trying to take the position of the first child. And that's an overwhelm for the nervous system. And people don't realize that, right? So we do these healing sentences to help you fall into the right place in your family system, restore the right balance of hierarchy, right? And also receive from your parents what the life force that you need to receive, and leave the rest that belongs to them behind with them to resolve. Mm-hmm. And when you do this, forgiveness and a lot of other things becomes easier. Like our ancestors, they went through wars, they went through murders, they went through, colonization or colonialism. And some of us carry a lot of grief and resentment, right? And rightfully so in some sense. But this stifles our life force. And so when you can do some healing sentences to kind of respect the journey that your ancestors went through, really honor them and say, okay, I know you handle this. Yeah, let me live my life fully with your blessings without trying to be loyal to the resentment that you might have had or the pain that you went through. Then you even receive more life force and more blessings. And you create more peace in the world, of course.
Yeah.
In most cases, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always so interesting to take a look at that and think about things that probably most of us don't, based on family constellations. And you've mentioned a few times about anxiety and depression. Obviously, these are two things that tend to manifest in people who have had unhealed childhood trauma, as well as negative beliefs. So why do you think anxiety, depression, and negative beliefs are connected to childhood trauma?
Gosh, one is the interpretation of the event. As a child, it's like, oh gosh, I'm not good enough, or it's my fault, or I'm responsible for mom or dad's pain that dad left, right? Or it's my fault I got abused, or I don't trust people anymore. So that wrecks the nervous system, right? One, there's a paradigm shift, a perception shift, because it was so overwhelming. So you had to do something to adjust to the event to be safe. That's a mental adjustment. But what happens then also with that mental adjustment, there's also a shift in your physiology. Yeah, your biology obviously has to match what your mind is doing. Yeah, if you think certain thoughts, you'll feel your heart racing or calming down. In the same way, when you adjust to a trauma, abuse, abandonment, whatever, your mind changes, and therefore your biology also adjusts accordingly. And with that adjustment, what happens is you go into a change in cortisol levels, burning out your adrenal system, rewiring your nervous system, right? Making you more prone to anxiety and depression, right? And negative beliefs keep us safe sometimes. They protect us, right? Oh, these are bad people, or I'm not safe and I have to watch out and I have to think I'm not going to be safe, because it's on overdrive. It's like trying to keep you alert, right? A safety mechanism. And so a lot of people criticize themselves for having negative thoughts and not being positive enough and not being like cool enough, right? Out there, like new age. And I really invite you folks listening who can resonate with this to really forgive yourself and be patient and really honor and love the part of you that is thinking negatively, and for your own safety. Yeah, you're really trying to protect yourself from more hurt and more danger.
And I love that you mentioned perception, because that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, or interpretation, right? The interpretation of the event. So you could have two people that had the same trauma happen to them, and one goes in one direction and one goes in another direction, and might be a very healthy adult versus an unhealthy adult, or maybe has a lot of health issues and the other one doesn't. Can you dive a little deeper into that, and I guess how we can change our perceptions or interpretations of what we experienced as children now that we are adults?
Gosh, okay, that's a very deep question. I'm going
Big
to try and
question.
digest that first. Yes. So why is it different? Well, one, it depends on upbringing. Yeah. So did you have a lot of nurturing and love while growing up? So that develops emotional resilience for certain people. And some people, they experience abandonment or conflict earlier on in their life. So the nervous system is a bit raw and vulnerable. So the next trauma that comes along, we either bounce back quite fast because we can bounce back on life force or parent force, or we crumble, collapse, right? Because like, oh gosh, it's my fault again. I'm not safe again. This new trauma kind of triggers the nervous system to re-experience the abandonment you had with mom. So you don't feel good enough in this new trauma, versus another person might feel, okay, you know what? That's their stuff, Okay, yes, I'm hurt, I'm scared, but I don't personalize it as much. Okay. Also, your family history, like in family constellations, if you had a lot of if your ancestors were abused, went through war, Holocaust, whatever it may be, you might be carrying some of that, right? And so when you go through a trauma, believe it or not, those memories and those entanglements get triggered, right? So those ancestral trauma, as well as the way you're nurtured in your own family life, affect the way we respond and our perception to trauma, to events in our life. I forgot your next question.
Oh, I was just talking about also how we might change our perceptions. If we're an adult now and we've had childhood trauma and we still perceive it in a way that is not beneficial to us or is really difficult for us to move forward from? That kind of stuff, like how would one get started in changing or shifting that perception into something that would empower them? And I know this is tough because obviously people have gone through terrible, terrible things. But what are your thoughts there?
Okay, so one is I have a really nice emotional healing exercise for free on my website, yeah, that really helps you go to these emotional blocks that you might have. And there's certain sentences you can say, like, it's safe for me to feel scared or vulnerable from time to time. Yeah, it's scared for me to feel overwhelmed once in a while. Yeah, because people have a negative belief about their response, about their shyness, their timidity, their overwhelmed, their surprise. It's safe for me to feel surprised that my sister shouted at me from time to time. Yeah, acknowledge your response and allow it to be there from time to time. The words from time to time are very important. Okay. And then I combine Gestalt therapy, EMDR, family constellations, and homeopathy to help people shift their paradigm. Right. And I also do somatic experiencing. So if you have someone who does some of these therapies, I'll name them again, because I find these ones more transformative than the analytical psychology stuff. Yeah. So Gestalt, NLP can be good sometimes for sure, as long as not too suggestive and not too forceful. Family constellations, EMDR, somatic experiencing. And then, of course, homeopathy is a super gentle, lovely remedy. Obviously, do it with a homeopath who's experienced with trauma. Is a great addition to take you through a transformation. And speaking of homeopathy, including homeopathy, I also include Bach flower remedies. Bach flower remedies are specific flower remedies made in homeopathic form in a way. And each of those flowers, so there's 33 flowers, each of those flowers covers a different emotional state. So there's like 33 different emotional states. Maybe too much fear or unknown fear, right? Guilt or anger, irritability, vanity, right? Low confidence, a sense of doom, gloom. Those are different emotional states. And yeah, each one is covered by a different flower remedy. So that's also another way to help transform your perception as well, because they work energetically, and perception is an energetic, it's happening at an energetic level as well, right? So you can use the energy remedies, homeopathy and Bach flowers combined with psychotherapy. And also very important is using supplements sometimes. I'll use GABA sometimes, an amino acid, right, for anxiety. And that calms me down. And the moment I calm down, my perception shifts. I don't feel as threatened as before, right? I might use rhodiola, which helps me reduce depression or picks up my energy, so I'll feel more confident. I don't rely on them because I want to get to the root cause and process stuff deep inside, right? But these are supplements you can use to help you survive in life and feel good. And then you go through more positive transformations when you're keeping your body healthy as well with holistic medicine.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I love your mention of the supplements and obviously how that can help if we can decrease feelings of anxiety by utilizing a supplement, then yes, perhaps then our perception of something changes because we feel good and we don't feel so scared anymore. And at the same time, yes, not to overly rely on them in the world of making sure to get to that root and uncover that. So that's awesome. I appreciate that. Anything else? One other thought is adrenals, and obviously people who've had childhood trauma have more than likely suffered a lot of stress as it relates to it. And obviously there's a big link in the world of stress and adrenals and physical health. So any just kind of short little tidbits before we start wrapping up on how to manage and help the adrenals?
Okay, let me channel into this. Well, yeah, adrenal exhaustion, usually I use certain herbs, yeah, which are also in the course. I'll mention a few. Rhodiola is a great one. Obviously, use a naturopathic doctor or herbalist, yeah, because some of these herbs will also stimulate your hormones, and people with certain cancers or certain conditions, even bipolar schizophrenia, might not do well on certain herbs, yeah, and supplements. There's ashwagandha, great, as well for adrenal support. What I like about ashwagandha, it also calms you down. So it balances your cortisol levels. So it can also help you improve your sleep, right? I'll sometimes use GABA if somebody's in overwhelm, just to calm their nervous system down, give their adrenal system a break. But that's not really an adrenal nourishing supplement per se. Gosh, there's licorice as well, but you don't want to use that if you have high blood pressure. Licorice is great for the adrenals. Sometimes I'll use zinc or vitamin C, great foods for the adrenals as well. So these are some of the supplements I use. I've mentioned some homeopathic remedies in the course as well for burnout. Cali-phos, for example, or phosphoric acid, each one has a different picture, right? One might be sensitive to noise or startles easily. Another person might, another remedy might be about having a low libido or having very anxious thoughts and inability to sleep, right? Like a raw nervous system or low vitality. Yeah. So I'll combine homeopathic remedies to release the stress and trauma and restore the adrenals, as well as herbs and supplements to nourish and build up the adrenals again.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you touching on that as we
Pleasure.
near the end. So, okay, we've got your free course. We have other free resources on your website. We have links below leading to those. Can you share a little bit about those?
So there's free videos on how to heal your gut, liver, emotions, adrenal system, and that the emotional healing exercise to overcome your negative beliefs about yourself. And then these free videos lead into a full course, which covers my exact protocols on gut healing, liver detox, homeopathic remedies for liver detox as well, which is often not covered in any other course out there, adrenal herbs and supplements, a whole range of emotional healing exercises, right? Very important to go step by step, developing safety in your nervous system, looking at childhood issues, drawing some stuff out, tapping. Yeah, we go through a whole spectrum of healing what's in the nervous system. And then, of course, the homeopathic remedies for different kinds of trauma out there, abuse, abandonment, etc. And also specific homeopathic remedies for specific emotional pictures related to anxiety and depression. So it's a full program.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that and all the resources. And again, everyone watching, there are links below to Dr. Ameet's website and all his great free resources, as well as other things. All right. What last insights do you have for us before we wrap up?
Family constellations comes to mind. So I'm just going to, follow the guidance. So seek out family constellations, because it often goes to the root cause of unexplained anxiety, depression, and emotional disturbances. Okay. There's lots of wonderful therapists out there, no matter where you are in the world. And it's time to really look at these entanglements and ancestral traumas and release ourselves from them. Because they're often the root cause of, like I'm saying, anxiety, depression, even social disturbances. You might be very jealous or greedy, or your parents or siblings or friends might have these imbalances that are destroying society around you. So it's time to expose this therapy in a big way. Bring it out to your neighborhood. But seek out family constellations, because I think it can resolve a lot of difficult to treat issues that psychotherapy doesn't really finish off treating.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. I so appreciate your final insights, and thank you for doing this as always.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone.